Do you know the feeling? That secret, electric thrill when someone says, "I don't know what I would do without you." The quiet satisfaction of being the one who has the answer, the one who can fix the problem, the one everyone turns to when things fall apart. It feels like purpose. It feels like love. It feels like value. But what if I told you that this feeling, this helper's high, is the most exhausting addiction a person can have? What if the noble cape of the rescuer you have been wearing is also a lead-lined blanket, slowly suffocating your own life force? This is one of the deepest patterns we must face in our shadow work. The shift from the rescuer to the sovereign. It is a graduation from a role that is defined by the needs of others to an identity that is rooted in the truth of your own soul. In this conversation, we are not going to condemn your generosity. We are going to refine it. First, we will deconstruct the noble prison of the rescuer role and understand the secret payoff that keeps you trapped. Second, we will illuminate the powerful and profoundly different archetype of the sovereign. And third, I will give you the practical, linguistic tools to begin this role shift in your daily conversations, transforming your relationships from a state of dependency to one of true empowerment. This is not about learning to be selfish. It is about learning that the most generous thing you can do for anyone is to trust them with their own strength and to finally claim your own. But the day you begin to withdraw your help is the day you discover its true nature. To understand the rescuer, we must first look at a psychological model known as the drama triangle. It has three roles: the persecutor, the one who blames and criticizes, the victim, the one who feels helpless and oppressed, and the rescuer, the one who swoops in to save the day. For the good person, for the recovering people pleaser, the rescuer role feels like home. It is the most noble, the most virtuous, the most loving role to play. Or so it seems. What is the rescuer's job description? It is to feel responsible for other people's emotions. It is to offer unsolicited advice. It is to do more than your share in every relationship. It is to be drawn like a moth to a flame to people and situations that are broken, that need fixing. And here is the crucial question, the one we must ask in this sacred, honest space. Why? Why do we do this? What is the secret payoff for this exhausting, full-time job? The first payoff is a sense of purpose and value. In a world where your own needs were deemed unimportant, your value becomes externalized. It becomes a function of your usefulness to others. The thought, "they need me," becomes a substitute for the thought, "I am worthy." Being the rescuer gives you a clear, definable role. It answers the terrifying question, "Who am I?" with a simple, noble answer, "I am the helper." The second and deeper payoff is avoidance. As long as you are busy solving everyone else's crisis, you do not have to face your own. As long as you are focused on the chaos in their kingdom, you do not have to acknowledge the quiet disrepair of your own. The crumbling walls, the overgrown gardens, the empty throne. Rescuing is a powerful and socially acceptable distraction from your own deep inner work. Let's look at a man named David. He's a 48-year-old software engineer, twice divorced. By all accounts, a wonderful man, a classic rescuer. He is drawn to women who are, in his words, beautifully broken. Women with past traumas, with financial struggles, with emotional instability. And David becomes their hero. He listens for hours. He gives financial support. He becomes their therapist, their cheerleader, their rock. For a while, it feels incredible. He feels needed. He feels powerful. He feels alive. But inevitably, the dynamic sours. He starts to feel a creeping resentment. After all I've done for her, she's still not changing. Or the woman begins to heal. She becomes stronger, more independent. She no longer needs him in the same way, and the relationship ends. David is left, once again, heartbroken and confused, telling himself the story that he just gives too much. But let's look at this through a Jungian lens. What is the pattern here? David is not in a relationship with a person. He is in a relationship with a role, the role of the rescuer. The brokenness of his partners is not a flaw he tolerates. It is a prerequisite. It is the lock that his key is designed to fit. And why? Because in his own childhood, he was the parentified child of an alcoholic mother. He learned at 5 years old that his job was to manage chaos, to be the stable one, to rescue. His own needs for play, for spontaneity, for simply being a child were exiled into his shadow. Now, as an adult, he unconsciously seeks out chaos to manage, because that is the only way he knows how to feel valuable. And more deeply, as long as he is focused on his partner's visible, dramatic wounds, he does not have to look at the quiet, invisible wound of the lost little boy inside himself, the boy who was never rescued. This is the noble prison of the rescuer archetype. It is noble because the desire to help is genuine, but it is a prison because your value is conditional. It depends on the perpetual brokenness of others. You are only a hero as long as someone else is a victim. This is not a sustainable way to live. It is not a foundation for a healthy relationship. It is the blueprint for burnout. And here is the most difficult truth of all. This is an insight that may feel sharp, but it is offered with the deepest compassion. The act of rescuing is not always an act of love. It can be a subtle, unconscious act of control. It keeps the other person in a one-down position. It keeps them dependent on you. And it robs them of the most sacred journey a human can take, the journey of discovering their own strength, of finding their own answers, of rescuing themselves. The hero's cape you have been wearing is heavy, and it is casting a long, dark shadow. A shadow not just on your own life, but on the lives of the very people you are trying to save.
But the hero's cape is heavy, and the prison, however noble, is still a prison. So how do we begin the great escape? How do we shift from the role of the rescuer to the archetype of the sovereign? First, we must understand who the sovereign is. The sovereign is not a king or queen who rules over others. The sovereign is one who has achieved sovereignty over themselves. They are the ruler of their own inner kingdom, their energy, their time, their peace, their choices. This is the great work of the second half of life that Carl Jung spoke of, the journey inward to claim your own throne. The rescuer and the sovereign approach the suffering of others in profoundly different ways. This difference is the key to your freedom, and it is best described with a metaphor. Imagine a person you love has fallen into a deep, dark pit. They are scared and hurt, and they are calling for help. The rescuer, motivated by a desperate need to fix the pain and be the hero, immediately jumps down into the pit with them. For a moment, the person in the pit feels less alone. But now, there are two people trapped in the pit. The rescuer, having merged with the chaos, has lost their perspective. They have lost their power. They have become part of the problem. The sovereign, on the other hand, hears the same call for help. They walk to the edge of the pit. They look down, not with panic, but with grounded, compassionate presence. And they do not jump in. Instead, they go and find a ladder. A strong, sturdy, golden ladder. And they lower it down into the pit. They say with a calm and unwavering voice, "I am here. I will not leave you, but you must do the climbing." Do you feel the difference? The rescuer disempowers. The sovereign empowers. The rescuer, in their unconscious neediness, says, "You need me to save you." The sovereign, from their place of wholeness, says, "I believe in your strength to save yourself." This is not an act of coldness. It is the ultimate act of love and respect. It is a faith in the other person's soul. I remember the moment this shifted for me. My mother, whom I love dearly, was a lifelong rescuer, and I, in turn, learned to play the victim to keep her love. When I was in my 30s, going through a painful divorce, I would call her every day, sometimes for hours, lost in my own pit of despair. And she would always jump in with me. She would feel my pain, cry my tears, and rage at my ex-husband. I felt understood, but I did not feel better. We were just two people drowning together. After years of this pattern, on my own shadow work journey, I knew something had to change. One day she called, and I was in another spiral of anxiety. But before I could begin my usual story, I said, "Mom, I'm in the pit again. And what I need from you today is not for you to jump in with me. What I need is for you to stand at the edge and hold the ladder. Just to remind me that you believe I can climb out." There was long silence on the other end of the phone. And then I heard her take a deep breath, and she said, "Okay, I can do that. I'm holding the ladder, sweetheart. I believe in you." In that moment, everything changed. She was not rescuing me. She was empowering me. And in doing so, she was not just freeing me, she was freeing herself from the exhausting job of being my hero. This is the shift. But it feels terrifying because it asks us to answer the question, if I am not the helper, then who am I? What is my value? And the answer of the sovereign is this: your value is not in your doing, it is in your being. It is not in your ability to fix. It is in your capacity for grounded, compassionate presence. A rescuer needs to be needed. A sovereign's presence is enough. A rescuer runs on the fumes of other people's crises. A sovereign is fueled by the deep, quiet well of their own inner peace. So how do we begin to embody this? How does a sovereign speak? They do not offer solutions. They do not say, "You should do this." Instead, they offer the golden ladder. And that ladder is made of three things: empathic presence, powerful questions, and a statement of unshakable trust. And learning to use them is the practical art of abdicating the rescuer's throne and finally claiming your own.
But what does it mean to lower a ladder? What does that sound like in a real conversation when your entire nervous system is screaming at you to jump into the pit? It is a practice, a conscious, three-step dance
that you can learn. It is the art of supporting without saving. Let us walk through it. Imagine a friend calls you. Let's call her Jessica. She is in the pit. She has just had a terrible argument with her partner. She is crying. She is distraught. The old you, the rescuer, would immediately go into fixing mode. You should leave him. Have you tried telling him how you feel? Here's what you need to do. You would take on the responsibility for solving her problem. But the new you, the sovereign in training, does something radically different. You begin with step 1, the empathic pause. You do not offer a single piece of advice. You do not try to fix the feeling. You simply witness it. You create a safe container for her pain with your presence, and you say the most powerful and healing words in the human language. That sounds incredibly difficult. I'm so sorry you're going through that. I can hear how much pain you're in. That's it. You just sit with her at the edge of the pit. You let her know she is not alone. For 90% of what people are looking for, this is enough. To be seen, to be heard, to be validated. You are not absorbing her pain, you are honoring it. After you have held that space, and only then, you move to step 2, the powerful question. A rescuer gives answers. A sovereign asks questions. But not just any questions, not questions that are advice in disguise, like, have you tried couples counseling? You ask a question that returns the power and the responsibility back to her. You are handing her the first rung of the ladder. The questions sound like this. What do you think you want to do? What does your heart tell you is the next right step for you? Or the most powerful question of all, what kind of support would feel most helpful for me right now? This last question is a masterpiece of sovereignty. It stops you from guessing. It stops you from giving her what you think she needs and invites her to connect with what she truly needs. Maybe she doesn't want advice. Maybe she just wants you to listen for 5 more minutes. Maybe she wants you to send her a funny cat video. You don't know. The powerful question honors her own inner wisdom. It says, you are the expert on your own life. I am just here to support your expertise. This is a profound act of trust. It is the deepest form of love. Now, sometimes she might answer that question with, I don't know, just tell me what to do. The rescuer inside you will leap at this invitation. It is the moment you have been waiting for. But the sovereign holds her ground. This is where you move to step 3, the statement of trust. This is the final and loving act of empowerment. You do not take the bait. You do not steal her power, even when she tries to give it to you. Instead, you hand her the ladder one last time. You say with warmth and unwavering faith, this is a really tough situation, and I don't have the answers for you. But what I do have is a deep and total faith in your ability to find them for yourself. I trust you. You will figure this out. Can you feel the power in that? You are giving her something so much more valuable than your advice. You are giving her your belief in her. You are holding the ladder. I know this is hard. It goes against every instinct the parentified child and the people pleaser has ever learned. It will feel like you are being unhelpful. It will feel like you are being unkind. But you are not. You are practicing a higher form of kindness, a kindness that empowers instead of enables, a kindness that fosters strength, not dependency, a kindness that is sustainable because it does not require you to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. This is the role shift. From the frantic, exhausted rescuer jumping into every pit, to the calm, grounded sovereign who knows their own kingdom comes first, who knows that the greatest gift they can offer the world is not their solutions, but their own inner peace, their own wholeness. A person who has claimed their throne becomes a lighthouse for everyone around them, not by telling the ships where to go, but simply by being a light.
Today, we have stood at a crossroads of identity, and we have chosen a new path. We have looked into the noble prison of the rescuer archetype. We have seen its secret payoffs and its devastating costs. We have understood that true love is not about jumping into the pit with someone, but about having the strength to stand at the edge and hold the ladder. We have introduced a new archetype for your journey, a new North Star, the sovereign, the one whose value is not in their usefulness to others, but in their loyalty to their own soul, the one who rules their own inner kingdom with wisdom and grace. And you have been given the tools of this new role, the 3 steps of sovereign support, the empathetic pause to witness without absorbing, the powerful question to empower without enabling, and the statement of trust, the ultimate gift of faith in another's strength. This is the most important role shift of your life. It is the graduation from the parentified child, responsible for the world's feelings, to the sovereign adult, responsible only for their own. It is a terrifying shift, and it is a profoundly liberating one. It will not happen overnight. It requires practice. It requires the courage to sit with the discomfort of not fixing. It requires the faith to believe that others are capable of their own journey. And it requires the radical self-love to finally turn your attention back to your own abandoned kingdom, to tend to your own gardens, to rebuild your own castles. So your invitation for this week is not to change everyone in your life. It is to change one conversation. Look for one small, low-stakes opportunity to practice this new dance. Maybe it is with a coworker who is complaining. Maybe it is with a friend who is indecisive. Instead of jumping in with advice, just try the empathetic pause. Just say, "That sounds really hard," and see what happens. Notice the space it creates. Notice how it feels in your body to support without saving. This is how you begin to embody your sovereignty, to declare your commitment to this new role, to this new way of being in the world. I invite you to make a vow, to affirm where your true responsibility lies. Write in the comments below, "My role is to support, not to save." By sharing these words, you are abdicating the throne of everyone else's kingdom, and you are taking the first step toward your own. But the sovereign rules not just with their words. They rule with their very presence. Their boundaries are not just spoken, they are felt. The sense of solidity, of rootedness, of a person who is fully inhabiting their own space, that is a language the world understands on a primal level long before you ever speak. It is a somatic boundary, an invisible, energetic fence. So, how do we cultivate that? How do you learn to feel your no in your very bones,
long before your mouth has to say it? How do you embody the quiet, unshakable presence of a sovereign? That is the deep, somatic work we will explore together in our next conversation.